Hey everyone. Sorry, first of all, couple things. Sorry about the fan. If it gets annoying, my room is the warmest room in the house, so I kind of need it to not die. Secondly, I am sorry about the quality of the video. I'm using my laptop's camera because I don't have, well, I have my phone, but that's even worse. Plus I have no space on my phone. So yeah, sorry about that. And thirdly, all one take because I have A, no editing anything on my computer, and B, I have no skills in editing anything on any computer. So this video, it feels like one that I have to make at some point. And what better time than 1:42 a.m. in the a.m. Not that would have been redundant. When my parents are asleep and can't hear me talking. Because I have performance anxiety even in front of them. That's, great for a musician. Anyway, this video is going to be about my life in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in the Mormon Church, and why I am choosing to leave. Because, I need to talk about it, and I want people I care about to hear my side of things before they start making assumptions. I'm not exactly quiet about my reasons for anything. I'm not good at subtlety. I'm not exactly a behind-the-scenes kind of person. I'm like Ashley says from Mass Effect, I'm pretty much a straight-up puncher. I'm very honest. Lacking in a filter, as my dad says. Although he says that's a good thing. So, a lot of people will probably very easily pick up on why I'm leaving. But there are a few who have their own assumptions, who have their own beliefs about why someone would choose to leave something that is so amazing and wonderful as the Mormon Church. And for people who have been raised in it, it feels like it is. It feels like the be-all, end-all. But it isn't. So keep that in mind. I've got like a list of talking points here. So I'm gonna start from as far in the beginning as I can, as makes sense too. I was born Mormon. My parents are both members of the church. And I don't really know my dad's stance on it. I've never really talked to him about it. Him and I love him to pieces. He's my favorite dad. I'm really glad that I have him in my life, but we don't talk about serious stuff all that much, just because it's so difficult to, without both of us feeling very uncomfortable, or getting into an argument, and I don't like arguing with him, so I just don't talk about serious things. But I know that my mom is a staunch believer in the church. She believes in everything that she was taught growing up, because she was raised Mormon as well. She was born in Utah and had all that, although she's not, like, a super typical Utah Mormon. But, you know, still very much, sorry, my hair's bothering me, very much raised in that culture. But she believes all of it with fervor, I think is the right thing to say there. I've lost my phone and chocolate. Oh, there we go. So that's what I was raised with, is believing in the church. I was raised as a girl in the Mormon church, so, you know, I did activity days and Young Women's, which I loved. Definitely didn't hate that at all. One bit. I have a lot of thoughts on it, and not a lot of them are positive. I do want to say that I know it has helped people. I know people have found a purpose in the Mormon church, and that people have found a reason to keep going in the Mormon church, and that my experiences are my experiences. They're not universal. My pain is my pain. It isn't universal. That being said, your experiences are not universal either. Your euphoria, your beliefs, the spirit that you have felt is not universal. So please keep that in mind. I knew from a fairly young age that I was just slightly left of what a more proper Mormon should be. Proper Mormon. It was very easy for people looking at me as a child to, you know, not really know. I was a very androgynous child, is what I'm saying. And I didn't mind that. I liked being confused for a boy because it felt more right, if that makes sense. I remember asking my mom, we were in the parking lot of Federhofer's Bakery, which if you are ever in St. Louis, you should check out because it's a great bakery. But I remember being really young and sitting in the parking lot there and asking my mom if people could, like, I was asking about people born with defects and like physical defects, and people who are born without limbs, people who are born with pre-existing conditions, people who are born with depression, that sort of thing, you know. And if that's possible, could it be possible that people would be born as the wrong gender and things like that? And, you know, she shut that conversation down pretty quickly, but I feel like looking back on it, that was a pretty big hint. Sexuality-wise, like, I didn't really have one for a while. You know, I had these romantic crushes on people of both genders, and people who, you know, whose genders I didn't really know the identities of, but I'm like, hey, you're a decent person, I like you, in a slightly more than friendly way. You kind of have to admit to yourself after a while that most people, when they're watching the Voyage of Temptation episode in the Clone Wars, they either want to be Satine or they want to be Obi-Wan in that pairing. They don't want to be between the two of them, which I very much did. But it didn't really occur to me that these deviances were somehow antithetical to the church. It didn't occur to me that the church wouldn't approve of these things, because it's like, this is affection, this is love, this is human, you know, I have been taught since a young age that love is important, that we need it in our lives and we need to show it and we need to receive it. So why would the way that I love be wrong? Because it felt very pure and it felt very right. And it didn't really occur to me for a while. Like, I had inklings, but it never settled into my mind that the church didn't approve of who I was and what I was, until I was like 16, which a while took me a bit to really register. But at 16, I found out. I didn't find out, but I did more research on the term transgender. I did more research into queer identities in general, and I finally had words for how I felt. You know, I finally had some way to define who and what I was, and I realized, oh, that's me. And at the time, I had two very close friends who I loved, and I still love them very dearly, even though we don't talk as much as we used to, which I think is a great tragedy, because, you know, I used to think of them as my platonic soulmates. You know, they were very much like a part of me, and I trusted them with everything that I had, everything that I was. So, you know, I told them about these things that I had discovered about myself, and they accepted me. And it was incredible to have who I am be seen and understood and acknowledged and loved. And that was my first experience coming out to anyone ever, was acceptance, which I think, on the one hand, yes, absolutely, that is what we need. But on the other hand, I kind of wish it hadn't been, so I'd be prepared for what would be happening next. Which I know is an awful thing to hope to wish for, but I would have been prepared at least. I wouldn't have been as stupid. Riding on the coattails of this successful coming out, of having my friends use the name that I had chosen for myself at the time, of having my friends use my proper pronouns, of having my friends accept that, you know, I wasn't straight and I wasn't cis. I told one of my young women leaders in confidence. I came out to her. And I thought she wouldn't tell anyone. And I would have the space that I needed to figure out how to be queer in the church. Boy, was I wrong. She told the young women's president in our ward, who told our bishop or someone in the bishopric. I don't really know how everyone found out. I did tell one of the members of the bishopric, who, again, I told him in confidence. And I honestly think that my reckless trusting, however that's supposed to be phrased, at that age is partially to blame. Not to blame for their choices, but to blame for inciting their choices, I think, is the best way to put that. The leadership didn't react well. And it led to what, in my little trio at the time, came to be known as the Nauvoo incident. Because some things went down in Nauvoo that I might be willing to expound on later, but right now I can't without getting so angry. Because they hurt me, they hurt the people I loved, and they set a precedent for doing that. And that event, it it kind of led to a double life. You know, outside the church, when I was online, when I was just with my friends, I was me, or as much me as I could be. It kind of, there was a fracture. There was one part of me that just desperately wanted to live freely, and another part of me that was constantly afraid of being discovered and being punished. And I began to believe that the way that I loved people was wrong and evil, and that it corrupted them and hurt them, the people that I loved. So I began withdrawing from my friendships. You know, I wasn't as close with them as before. I ruined my first relationship, my first real romantic relationship with someone, because I was scared I would hurt him, and, you know, I did. I wasn't wrong. But I thought that I was a monster because of what I am, because of how I was born. And so I made a lot of decisions for people that I shouldn't have. I ended a relationship that I needed. I really hurt people that I cared about because I was scared of hurting them and of getting hurt myself. I lived in fear, and I'm still living in a lot of fear because of how I was treated and how the people that I loved were treated because of me. For 6 years following that, for nearly a decade, I tried to, in my mind, get back into the church's good graces, to get back into God's good graces, while simultaneously living the life that I wanted to live in the privacy of my own room and online. You know, I went to church, I attended church activities, and then when I went home, I rebelled. And it wasn't healthy, and I'm still not healthy. Right now, I developed a lot of coping mechanisms that may have helped me survive, but I wasn't living, you know? I was existing, I wasn't living. I didn't find any comfort in prayer. I lied about finding comfort in the scriptures, because, you know, a good Mormon does that. Doesn't lie, but a good Mormon finds comfort in the scriptures, and a good Mormon reads them, feels the Spirit. A good Mormon reads conference talks, receives revelation. A good Mormon sets aside everything that they are for the church, because that's what God asks of us. You know, I'm trans and bisexual. I need to just shove that down and allow the light of Christ to heal me of my corruption. I had a friend who worked at a local synagogue here. He used to be pagan, and then he kind of, I don't know what he is anymore, but at the time that I knew him, he was agnostic. And we used to have some really long discussions about religion, about my religion, about how he interacts with religion. And after he left my life, after he moved away and we lost contact, I began questioning my place in the church. I began realizing that it didn't matter how much I begged to be accepted by them. The church as a whole, the leadership of the church, would never accept me, truly. If I were to transition, I would not be afforded the same rights as any other man. No matter who I fell in love with, My options were to remain celibate and non-intimate for the rest of my life, or to force myself into a mold I didn't fit in for a chance at eternity. At a good version of eternity. At heaven. So I went inactive, fully. I began asking the church people in my life, just the people in general in my life, to use my name and pronouns. I changed my name on Facebook after a bout of anger at the church. And I began looking elsewhere for peace and acceptance. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what religion I am anymore. If any. I'm not sure it really matters at the moment. I am drawn to paganism because that's the other one that I've had the most experience with outside of Christian religions. But wherever I end up, I'm taking steps to become healthy again. I'm taking steps to move past the hate that I have, to move past the anger that I still have, because I have a lot of it. Wherever I end up, I am there because I got tired of begging for scraps at the table of a church that doesn't care about me or people like me. And that's all I have to say about that. That's why I'm leaving. Because after a certain point, you have to do what's right for you. And I cannot continue in the Mormon church and expect myself to stay alive. I cannot expect myself to ever be whole in the Mormon church. It has helped and healed so many people, but it has wounded me so deeply that I can't continue in it. And that's all I really have to say about that. Thank you for listening. I know this was a long-ish video, probably a bit more than people wanted to deal with, but I needed to say it. So thank you.